Hey everybody, welcome to the Merchant Sales Podcast. Last week, I talked about the merchant life cycle and we kind of broke down these foundational changes in our industry. And I wanted to talk about that because I think it's such a crucial trend. Well, today I'm going in a very, very different direction. And I'm talking about where did all the closers go? And so this is the other trend I wanted to talk about before we get back to our kind of regularly scheduled programming with guests and all that. Because I see these changes in our industry where it's like, wow, now we need to sell software, we need to sell point of sale, we have to sell solutions, things of that nature. But then at the same time, I think kind of as a result of that in some ways, oftentimes I'm asking myself the question, where did all the closers go? Somehow in this process, it's like, well, I'm either going to go out and I'm going to sell a standalone terminal, or I'm going to, do this whole different sales process for a point of sale solution where I hope somebody wants to sign up. And we kind of forget about closing. And so whether you're an ISO, an agent, or an ISV, your business is largely determined, your growth in your business is largely determined by the number of new clients that you close, that you get to say yes, all right, on a regular basis. And so I wanted to break down, I'm pretty excited about it actually. I've got, maybe 8 or 9 things I've written down here about closers. And in my opinion, what is a true closer, right? What does that mean? And so I think it will help you if you're managing a sales team, if you have an ISV and you're selling merchants over the phone or over Zoom with presentations, or if you're an individual agent out in the field selling, point of sale systems or terminals or whatever it is. I just want to break this down. Now, before I dive into this topic today, I do want to mention that this podcast episode is sponsored by Nativia. Okay, so nativia.com/professional is where you can go to get the professional card. And we'll have an announcement from Vlad a little bit later on in the episode. So we're going to dive into this topic today about closing sales. And before I do that, I want to give you this kind of one foundational concept about closing that I think will help you to determine where you're at either as a sales team, as an individual, as an organization with this idea of closing sales. And that is that the enemy of yes is maybe. Okay? The partner of yes is no. All right? So let me see if I can break this down here, okay? So if you're somebody who's supposed to be closing sales, or you have a sales team that's supposed to be closing sales, and they're not closing very many sales, okay? Then you have a couple of potential reasons why they're not closing deals. But I'll tell you what the most common reason is. The most common reason is that they're getting a lot of maybes. So if you have a salesperson saying things to you like, wow, my demos are all going really well. Everybody seems to like this solution. I'm going out in the field and I feel like I'm really connecting with everybody really well. They all seem to like me. All right? Now, those are red flags. Now, if that person is your top salesman or top salesperson, great. But it's very unlikely that that's the case, okay? Usually, that is a team filled with below average performers, average or below average, who don't know how to close deals, okay? And the reason is because they have this misconception in their mind that the enemy of yes is no. In other words, my goal when I'm selling, in their mind, the average or below average performer, the goal in my mind is I don't want anybody to tell me no. That's my objective. I don't want any no's. Well, then you're not going to get any yeses, or very few, okay? Actually, you want to get no's. What you don't want to get are maybes. The best sales performers in any industry, when you talk to them, the difference between them and the below average performers, well, there's many differences, but we'll get into a lot of those right now. But the big one, their mental place is they're not out there trying to get people to like them or to resonate with them or to think the solution looks cool. They are trying to close business. They are looking for people that they can sell, and then they sell them, okay? It's really that simple. It's a mindset shift, okay? And so today I want to break down and talk to you about what do closers really do? Because as I talk to a lot of salespeople, even in our industry, at ISVs that I work with, and other clients I consult for, I'm always shocked by kind of this lack of closers that exist that are able to really like close deals. And when I talk to them about, hey, you know, I know this person that's closing 15 to 20 deals a month. I know this person is closing 20 to 25 deals a month. I used to close 20, 25 deals a month. Many times these people are like, wow, that must have been cool back then when you could do that, you know? And it's like, no. I mean, I know people now that are doing that. It's like, wow, I could never do that in my market. I could never do that with my leads. I could never do that with my situation, right? Excuses. Where did all the closers go? All right. So let's talk about it. All right. So just have an open mind here and just imagine, if you're a salesperson, imagine that you could sell a lot more if you did things a little differently. Just imagine it. It's possible. All right. And then let me tell you how to do it. Okay. Ready? Here we go. Number one, closers connect with confidence. Closers connect with confidence. If you're a closer, your confidence is like through the roof. Now, there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, right? Arrogance is you have this bravado for no reason. You actually don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to help anybody, right? And you're just walking in there like you're the best thing since sliced bread. Confidence is, you know, this business owner, if they are lucky enough to develop a relationship with me, I know that I am going to help them. If I get a new client, they are fortunate. They are blessed that they ended up working with me because I know who I am. I know what I'm going to provide. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to give them value. Okay? I have that confidence. So when I walk into a business or I talk to a new client and I'm trying to close a deal, the beginning of that conversation, I'm able to connect with them, but there's an enormous amount of confidence that I come into that with. And so it's like, well, James, what do you say to connect with people? You know, it's interesting. To be honest, like, I'm actually not somebody who easily connects with others. This is really interesting. Like, I think this will help you maybe to understand this. So, just being very transparent about myself, I'm actually very much the introvert. All right. I don't go to the regional shows unless somebody asks me to speak or do a panel or something like that. And if I do that, I go in that day and I leave. I don't connect easily with people. I really don't. That's not a big skill set for me. It's like, well, then how are you able to close so many sales and grow your business? Our revenue right now for our company, which mostly, we're probably 5 times up versus 3 years ago in our revenues right now. Like, how is that growth possible if I don't like to, it's not easy for me to connect with people? Because when it comes to an area of I'm trying to help someone with a product or service, I enjoy connecting there because of my confidence, right? So even though you might say, well, I'm a little bit, I'm not like the social butterfly, neither am I, all right? Neither am I. But I have a lot of confidence when it comes to connecting with someone to sell them something because I believe in the thing that I'm offering them. I believe in the thing I'm selling, and I have a ton of confidence in talking about whatever that is, right? So I get into a setting there, somebody wants to talk to me about, sports or whatever, small talk is going around. I'm not great at that. But you want to talk to me about how to help your business grow. You want to talk to me about payment processing. You want to talk about, what kind of point of sale system would work best. I'm all in on that conversation. I love that conversation. Why? Because I have a lot of confidence there. So closers connect through confidence. So how confident are you? Confidence is this legitimate belief that's inside of you. You can't fake it. You can't manufacture it. It's a true thing that's inside of you that says, I know that I can help this particular merchant. That's confidence. All right. Closers connect with confidence. Number 2, closers add value or move on. Closers add value or move on. So when you connect with confidence and you have this conversation with them, the idea is, if I don't really believe that I can help you, then I'm out of here. Then I'm moving on. I have no interest. I'm not wasting your time. I'm certainly not going to waste my time. Okay? I don't need your business. Okay? I want your business. I want to help you out. I want to see your business grow, but I don't need your business. And if I determine that you're not a good fit for what I'm offering, I'm out. I'm moving on. Next. Doesn't bother me at all, okay? You're not interested, you're having a bad day, whatever it is, like, I'm gonna do my best through confidence and humor to like move this thing along, but if you don't want it, let's go. Let's move to the next one. Can I add value here or not? Right? If I can add value, great. I'll add value and I'll talk about how I'm gonna do that. If not, I'm out of here. I move on. So closers add value or move on. So when a closer goes into a business, and this is a huge, again, so many of these things are like, you wouldn't even hardly know it if you were out in the field with a closer. You'd be like almost confused as to why they're able to close so many deals. But there are these subtle mindset shifts that are so crucial. And one of the big ones is when a average or below average salesperson talks to a prospect for the first time, they're trying to get them interested. A closer is trying to determine if they're qualified. Okay? And if they're qualified, then the closer is going to close the sale. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no off-ramps. Like, are we a good fit for you? And if we are, then I'm selling you. Like, you're like, oh, that's arrogant. No, it's not. It's actually confident. It's based on, experience and like, no, I'm gonna set you up. Like, I know what I'm doing, and I'll talk more about how to do that. Okay? But if I can't add value, then I'm moving on. So it's more of the opposite direction. A closer is more like trying to qualify the decision maker rather than hoping that they're interested. Okay? And that's how they approach it. And so little subtle things that they say to the business owner makes a big difference when your mindset is, if I can help you, then I'm going to help you. If I can't, then I'm going to move on. Okay? Closers connect with confidence. Closers add value or move on. Closers assume the sale and focus on the details. So once I find out, hey, you know what? I can add value here, right? This is somebody where I can add value. Well, then in my mind, okay, you are a prospect. I am offering you the opportunity to work with me, which is awesome. Okay? Because again, not out of pride or arrogance, out of confidence. Like, your life is about to get better because you're going to work with me. Like that, hey, I believe that. If you don't believe that, you're not a closer. I'm sorry. But like, that's a key part of it, It's like, your life's about to get better because you're going to be dealing with me. Okay? And I believe that. And so I know that the solution that I have is the right solution for you. Like, I know that for sure. Otherwise, I would have already moved on. So then you're going to move forward. I assume that. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. Like, this is obvious. This is a no-brainer. This is like, of course, you're going to move forward. Like, why on earth would you not? You know what I mean? So it just comes down to the details, right? Like, okay, well, when should we move forward? What are the details of how we should move forward? How should we set up the solution to best fit your needs? What questions do you have that I can answer to make sure that you have a level of comfort and you're ready for this new solution? But I'm not being like, well, what do you think? Is there any way you might move forward? It's like, no, I like, of course you're going to move forward. Obviously, this is a great, solution. And if it wasn't a great solution, I would have already moved on to somebody else. So like, here I am. You're moving forward, right? So it's hard to explain that to somebody who's a below average performer because they're so desperate for the sale and they just want the sale so bad, And it's like, no, if you want the sale that bad and you're that desperate for the sale and you just like, I need the sale and you're trying to convince them of the sale, you're not going to make the sale, okay? Like, no. Like, I have something that you need. You can partner with me, which is amazing. I am going to take great care of you. I have a solution that I know is a great fit. So clearly you're moving forward. So let's talk about the details, right? So again, I'm not going to give you the script, right, for this because first of all, good closers don't have scripts. But, the idea is like that's your mindset. And so what you say is very different when that is your mindset. So think about your last few sales conversations. Is this your mindset? What I've talked about so far, connecting with confidence, adding value or moving on where you're qualifying them, assuming that they're going to move forward, right? And then focusing on the details of, okay, I'm assuming you're going to move forward. Let's talk about how we're going to do that, right? Next, closers bypass objections. I didn't say rebuttal. I said closers bypass objections through preparation. Closers bypass objections through preparation. Let me explain what I mean by this. If I had to say one of the things, if you asked me and said, James, what is it that makes a top performer? Like what really sets them apart? Number one on my list would be mindset, and that's mostly what I'm talking about today. But there are a couple of other things that are key components in my experience, and this is a big one. And that is, closers spend a lot of time talking about objections to other closers, and they spend a lot of time preparing how they're going to handle certain objections. But in the moment, in the sales conversation, they really just don't deal with objections very much at all. And if you're like, James, that's ridiculous, you're out of touch, whatever, you're probably a below average performer if you think that. I'm sorry to tell you that, but closers that I talk to, they just don't deal with objections very much. And the reason that we don't deal with objections is two things. Number one, we anticipate the objections before they happen. And we weave those into our approach. So if I know that there's an objection that tends to come, well, I'm going to think through, how do I answer that objection as part of my opening or as part of my presentation or whatever before the objection even comes, to kind of make it ridiculous to even bring up that objection. So I'm going to get them to agree that that objection doesn't matter before they bring it up, right? That's what closers do. And the other thing closers do is they have crafted and memorized, in most cases, beautiful lines and stories and, examples to get them around objections. Like the most common one that I could tell you, which is not really a great example of one, but kind of gives you the context of it, is the idea of, many of the people that are already my client had that same concern, and what they found was whatever, and then they kind of pivot right off of that and get right back into the script. It's like, yeah, many of my clients had that exact same objection. What they found once they got involved is that it just didn't matter because of X, Y, and Z. And I'm sure that makes sense to you. So let's get back over, though, to this issue here. What are your thoughts on the way we structure this feature? They just kind of go around it and then let's move on, right? So they bypass objections through preparation. Does that mean they never get objections? Does that mean they never rebuttal objections? No, they're still going to rebuttal objections and get objections, and absolutely, right? But again, the vast majority of objections, they bypass them, and the way they do it is through preparation. There's a guy who I think will be listening to this podcast, usually listens in. I met him several years back, and he's somebody that consistently closes 20 to 30 merchant accounts a month himself. And he showed me a book that he had. And this book, big, thick, probably, 1.5-inch binder book, had pages and pages where he had written down every objection that he had ever gotten. And then he had notes in there about things he had tried to bypass and get around that and deal with that objection. And every objection he'd ever received, and he'd been selling for 20 years in the business, right? It's that level of dedication and preparation is what leads to this really smooth process. And so kind of like that duck, or swan that you see floating effortlessly across the water, but then underneath their feet are, paddling wildly, right? That's what it's like. The top salesperson, if you watch them, you're like, wow, they're so lucky. It's amazing that they're able to just close these sales. This is unbelievable. But actually what's happening is there's all this preparation that went into it. And that's what's really propelling them forward and making it seem so seamless. All right? So here we go. Closers connect with confidence. Closers add value or move on. Closers assume the sale and focus on details. Closers bypass objections through preparation. Closers close more than once by making it personal. Closers close more than once by making it personal. Now, most closers know that even the smoothest sales process is only going to result in a yes on the first attempt about a third of the time. In other words, let's say there's potential to sell 9 people. So there's 9 people that if you did the perfect presentation, the perfect process, you could close those 9 people. Well, if you do that process and you get to the end and you pull out the paperwork and you do like an assumptive close, like, yeah, let me get a few notes down in the paperwork here. How do you spell your last name? You try to just go right into the paperwork. Whatever you try to do to close the sale the first time, they're going to say, well, I need to think about it, or hold on a minute, I got to talk to my partner, or whatever it is, right? So you're only going to get a third that are just going to be like, okay, let's move forward. To get the next third, to go from, 1/3 to 2/3 of these potential sales, you have to close more than once by making it personal. I literally can count on one hand the number of salespeople that I have met in our industry who actually use something like this, and it boggles my mind because it's so effective. I've talked about it in videos many times, but I would say at least a third of the sales I closed with something like this. I would say, hey, you know what, Susan, I totally get where you're coming from, and I really appreciate that. I think it's obvious to both of us that this is something that would be beneficial to both of our companies, but you've expressed a valid concern there. Here's what I'll tell you about that. This is my business. Just like this is your small business, this is my local small business, right? And so I take each client relationship, very seriously, and I consider it part of my personal reputation to take care of each of my clients and give them a great experience. Now, what I'm asking for today is that we would move forward. Let's get some paperwork done. Let's make sure we have everything done that we need to have done to go to the next step. And what I'm going to promise you is, if anything goes wrong, if there's any issues whatsoever, I will personally be responsible for that. I will take care of the situation. I will make sure that you have a great experience. And if you don't, I will immediately terminate your account with no, repercussions for you whatsoever. So, all I'm asking for today is that you work with me. I would love to have your business. I would love to work with you. What do you say? Do you want to give it a shot? Now, if you say something like that to a prospect, okay, it is incredibly difficult for them to say no to that. Why? Because now they're not saying no to your point of sale system. They're saying no to you. They're saying no to your local business, right? So you need to use lines like that, all right? Sometimes you go in and maybe you're following up on a lead or something, and the person's like, oh, I don't know. And you're like, hey, you know what? First of all, no hard feelings at all, okay? I'm a local small business owner, just like you are. And the reason I'm out here today is because I like to connect with other local business owners, and I want to add value whenever I can. And I'm sure you're the same way, trying to add value to the local small business community. Here's what I'm asking for today. Can you give me 5 minutes? I'd like to talk to you about a couple of things and connect. And if you don't have that 5 minutes now, could you give me 5 minutes later today or tomorrow? Is that fair? Like, using lines like that is what gets people to move forward. That's what closers do. They close more than once by making it personal. Okay? Then, closers approach the line by eliminating risk. Closers approach the line by eliminating risk. Now, I have to explain this one a little bit because this is one that I think very few salespeople understand. So there is a line that we don't want to cross, right? When we're closing the sale, it's like, well, we don't want somebody to kick us out of the store. We don't want somebody to call the police on us, right? Like there's actual constraints, you know what I mean? Like, we don't want to go over the line. By the way, I have had, the first one of those did happen to me several times where I was, not politely asked to leave a business. And I was telling yesterday, I had lunch with John Shirey, some of you know, from my team, and I was telling him a story about how I had a merchant where I kept closing, and I went too far. And he said that he's like, if you contact me again, I'm going to call the police, for harassment or whatever. And I was like, oh, all right. Hey, you have a great day. No hard feelings. Sorry about that. I was like, whoops, went over the line. That was very early on in my sales career. And it was like, I needed to know where the line was. Like, where is this line? So think of it like when you're growing up, your parents likely had a line that you couldn't cross. And for all of us, it was different. Some of you had maybe even different with your mom and your dad, right? Like, maybe your dad was super strict and your mom was very lenient or something like that, And so it's like, where is the line? And you might want ice cream and you're like, oh, could we have some ice cream tonight? And then they're like, no, not tonight. And you're like, well, if I went and cleaned up my room, do you think I could get, like if you were a salesperson, you probably were trying to sell your parents when you were a kid on getting ice cream, right? And, you would find out where that line was. How? By crossing the line, right? You would cross the line and it would be like, look, you're gonna have an ice cream for a week, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I just crossed the line, I pushed too hard. Well, closers have learned through experience where the line is, and unfortunately, the only way to tell where the line is to cross over the line because it's an invisible line. So, a good closer's probably crossed the line a few times, meaning they've closed the same person 4 or 5 times, 6 times on one visit, and that person has been like, look, I'm not interested, get out, or, they've like, I'm ending this Zoom right now if you don't shut up, and so it's like, is that ideal? Well, no, but let me encourage you as a sales manager, when you get a real closer that comes in, they're probably going to have that happen to them a couple times. If I have a top closer and nobody ever complains to me about that person, and they're like, I never get that complaint that says, well, they just, they won't leave me alone. They keep trying to, it's like, I'm like, good. Like what I say to the client is, oh, I'm so sorry about that. We'll take care of it. But to the salesperson, I'm like, hey, nice job. Now you know where the line is, right? Get as close to that as you can, but let's not cross that line again, And so what happens is closers, they approach that line, and the way that they do it is by eliminating risks. They approach the line by eliminating risk. So how do you close again and again and again and again, right, without going over the line? And the way you do it is by eliminating risk. So you got to figure out what is the risk to them. Why is it that they don't want to move forward today, right now? Is it, well, I'm my partner. Okay, well, I tell you what, if we can move forward and get started on this paperwork, and then I'll talk to your partner tomorrow, and if there's some kind of a concern or whatever, we can always stop the process then. That makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, let me eliminate that risk, right? I don't know, what is the risk? What are they concerned about? And you just find a way in the moment, creatively, and this takes a lot of practice and experience. How do you eliminate this risk so that you can close the sale? Okay, you just eliminate risk. That's what you do, okay? So closers approach the line by eliminating risk. I have 2 more. Here we go, ready? Closers gain referrals through integrity. All right, so let's, now that we've talked about going over the line and approaching the line and all that, now let's talk about the reverse of this. And not the reverse, X, that's the wrong way to put it. The other side of the coin, I guess. Same coin, it's just the other side. If you're closing people that way, but you don't have integrity, then you're a charlatan, you're an imposter, and you're gonna fail. Because long term, word's gonna get out, right? And and even if you are whatever version of success you would call that, by ripping people off or scamming people or whatever it is you're doing as a dishonest sales professional, good luck with that. You're not gonna, your kids aren't gonna respect you. You're not gonna sleep good at night. You're not gonna feel like you were successful because you know that you cheated to get there and you know that you took advantage of people to get there. That's not success. That's just not success, okay? We all, I think, know people like that, and we see them miserable. We see them, not really getting the best of life, right? So the flip side of this kind of, seemingly aggressive, like, oh, I'm gonna close, is like, yeah, and I have integrity. Like, I'm gonna do what I say I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna follow through on what I said I was gonna follow through on. And if I don't, I'm gonna own up to it. It's an honest mistake. I'm gonna own up to it. Right? Like, this is what we're going to do. I had, we started a lead generation company, most of you know about, and, we had 4 or 5 clients where when we first started that program and we were getting used to like what we're doing, we overpromised. And we said, hey, here's what we're going to provide to you. And it's like, we weren't able to provide that at scale, right? We had to like adjust expectations, adjust the program and everything like that. And we had several clients that reached out and were like, man, this is not what I thought it was going to be. In every single one of those situations, my response, I personally got on a Zoom with them, even though I'm not the one that sold them, and said, hey, you know what? We screwed up. It's our fault. What do we need to do to make this right? What kind of refund do you want? And whatever they said, I did instantly. Like, nope. And, in every one of those situations, they said, hey, this wasn't a good fit for us, but whatever you do next, let us know, right? Why? Because there's a reputation there, and your reputation is something you protect, and you have integrity. And so if you say you're going to do it, you do it. And if you don't do what you said you're going to do, you make it right, right? And you say, hey, no, hold on. I'm going to make this right, and you just do what you need to. So it's like that's like this really, really crucial side of this coin that you have to get to, right? Very, very important, okay? So closers gain referrals through integrity. And so long term, closers just seem to keep closing more and more and more and more deals. Why? Because their confidence grows, but also because word starts to get out and they start to get referrals and people are like, oh yeah, this person's awesome to deal with. All right, Very last one I have. Closers view change as opportunity for incremental improvement. Closers view change as opportunity for incremental improvement. Now, I thought a lot about the wording of this one, and the reason I worded it this way is because there's a couple of mindset shifts here that are very important. As a closer, when you see things change, like the last podcast that I put out, go back and listen to that episode I just did last week. And you listen to that. Well, if you're an average or below average performer, you might, you might have one of two reactions. Your reaction's either going to be, oh my word, everything's changing, this is a disaster, right? I'm going to fail. Or you might have a thing that says, oh, everything's changing, great, now it's going to be easy. Now I know I'll find a way to make lots of money, even though I haven't been successful so far. That's neither of those mindsets are the mindset of a closer. A closer is like, I'm already successful. I will continue to be successful, and I will do that by whatever these changes are. I'm going to make incremental or, I'm going to make these improvements incrementally. I'm going to iterate, and I'm going to hey, oh, wow, there's this new thing. I don't want to change everything I'm doing because I'm already really successful, but I am going to slowly start to implement this in. And they ask questions like, what kind of changes could I make to my existing process that wouldn't change my level of success, but would help my customers better, right? How can I help my existing clients while mutually benefiting both of us? I can make them more successful and I can make more money or have a higher lifetime value. So they look at these things and say, okay, I have these foundational habits of things that I do that make me really successful. How can I tweak these to adjust for these new changes? And what they do is they make these incremental changes. They start early and they make change after change after change after change. And a year or two down the road, it's like, wow, look at them. They're cutting edge. It's like, well, yeah, but they did that very slowly over a year or two because they have a process that works. They very carefully and intentionally said, oh, here's all these opportunities and all these changes. These are opportunities, but I'm not going to go nuts over them. I'm not scared of them. I'm not going to implement all of them overnight. I'm not going to change everything about my process today, but I'm going to start moving in the right direction and I'm going to start implementing these changes. And that's how you should approach the topics like the ones I talked about last week. All right. Where have all the closers gone? Hopefully you are one of them. And if you're not one of them, hopefully you'll take this advice, listen to this podcast episode every day you go out in the field for the next week or something, right? And just get this in your head. Like, this is the mindset of a closer. I'm blessed today to close deals that are much, much larger than the deals I used to close when I was out in the field full time doing merchant services. Most of the deals I personally close these days are $10,000 to $50,000 a month type of deals. And you know what? Everything I just told you, I use exactly in the same way to close huge deals today that I used to use to close individual merchant accounts, right? And so these are the core of a closer, whether you're selling software from an ISV, whether you're selling payment processing out in the field, whatever it is that you're doing, this is what closers do. This is the closer's mindset. So with that being said, we're now going to move on. I got a couple of other segments for you real quick. I'm going to talk to what I believe is the best closer in the merchant services industry, which is Rich Norton. So we're going to move on to that. And then we got a special announcement from Vlad Sadovsky, who always has some cool stuff for us from our sponsor, Nativia. So let's switch over to that, and everybody have a great week. Hey everybody, we got my good friend Rich Norton coming to us from the field today, out running appointments and selling merchant accounts. How you doing today, Rich?
I am doing excellent. It's another day in beautiful Florida. It's 80 degrees, the sun is shining, and we're ready to go help merchants right now.
I love it. If you don't know Rich Norton, then, Rich Norton is the most positive person that I've ever met, that I've ever encountered. And that's such a huge part of your success. And I thought today, Rich, you could share with those who are maybe newer to the industry, what are some of these sales records that you've set? And I know you don't like sharing this kind of information that much, but the idea is just giving them a vision of what can be accomplished as they get into this industry. So I thought maybe as a source of encouragement for them, maybe you could share a little bit of your success that you've had in the industry.
Absolutely. See, everybody started out the same way, and I've been in the industry. It's amazing how fast the time has gone by. Here it is 24 years later. I'm still out in the field. People say, why are you still in the field? I love it. I enjoy it. I love the challenge. And we all started out the same way. It's an amazing opportunity. The business is as big as we want it to be. And we have so many opportunities to bless our families and bless other people. So it's a great, great opportunity. I've always been a top performer. My prior life, I sold encyclopedias door to door. The best training in the world is get out there and sell door to door.
Oh
And
yeah.
they told us if you can do that, you can pretty much do anything. And didn't get much training in this industry. It was basically, here's your kit, here's your stuff, go out and
Right.
sell. And it was trial by error, numbers game, just get out there. I figured out what didn't work. I failed a bunch of times and then finally got to a point where, all right, I'm getting this down. I got the momentum. Everything's working. No secret formula. If we go to work every day, we're going to have success. So for many, many years, I've written on average 400 plus merchants per year. And I did that for a long period of time. And then I started getting towards the end. People were competing against me. And my mentor, Mr. Brian Campstra, knows how to motivate me. There was
Right.
one year where we were neck and neck going into November, and I was tied with this other gentleman. Bill Schroeder was his name, great
Okay.
sales guy. And Brian, we were in a pool in the Bahamas doing a site survey. He goes, Rich, how are you going to feel if you lose this year? And I didn't say much, right? But when I got back home, I hit the road and I actually wrote over 150 merchants in the last 2 months. I ended up with 601 merchants written for that year, not with a team. That was me all by myself. So I'm kind of
Right.
bragging on myself. So that was my best year. My passion now is to train and supervise people, and I believe in leadership by example. My thing is I'm out in the field, I'm in the trenches with everybody. I still write 325 to 350 merchants in a year. Why? Because I'm crazy and I love it.
So when you think about a number like 600 merchants in a year, as one individual person writing that many accounts, what are some of the key things that you would say to a new agent that says, well, I want to become the kind of person that could do that, right? Like what kind of discipline is that? What maybe even a little bit of the schedule and some of those things? What do you want to share to tell these agents that kind of want to become that, Rich Norton 2.0, right? Like what does that look like?
Absolutely, yes. So a lot of people are looking for the secret sauce. They think, well, that guy must just be a great salesperson. When he walks in, the red carpet's there and everybody just welcomes him. And we have to understand that we're going to get rejection. We're going to fail. We're going to have difficulties. You have to set yourself up with a schedule of success. And some of you that are watching right now, you're going to have to change your mindset. You may think, well, I'm the type of guy, I'm a night owl and I stay up late at night and I don't get up till 9 o'clock. You have to change that way of thinking if you want to have success. The reality is I'm writing merchants in many cases while people are still sitting at home thinking about getting out in the field. So I'm up every morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm not telling you all need to do that, but you need to adjust some things. I have a schedule. I work out every day. I have quiet time. I go for a walk. I play guitar. I've got about a 2.5 hour, 3 hour window. I leave my house at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm driving, as you see, I'm in my car right now, getting ready to hit the field. I drive an hour and a half, 2 hours. Yesterday, I drove 3 hours and 15 minutes to my area, wrote a couple merchants, turned around and came back. I was home. And I always try to get home, always had this philosophy, get home for dinner with your family. I want to be number one in every phase of my life. I've learned that proper balance is a key. So if you do that over a period of time, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, take the weekend off, take your merchant hat off, spend time with your family, enjoy life, go right back at it Monday through Friday. No secret formula. If you put in part-time work, you're going to have part-time results. You got to just make the commitment and just work at it.
One thing I find so interesting, Rich, I haven't told you this, but I have a consulting client that I've been working with, and they're in a very different industry, but they're looking at the merchant services industry, right? And so they're getting into it, and they have a sales force of these salespeople, younger guys and ladies who just get out in the field and they go prospecting, and they've been doing like residential door to door, things like that. Well, they did this pilot program, Rich, and it was hilarious to me because they have no idea what they're doing. Absolutely. I mean, these are the greenest, newest, you know what I mean? And so all they know is that they have a job and they don't know any different. And so they get out in the field and they walk into businesses for 8 hours a day. Like that's what they do. And,
Yes.
literally right off the bat, I mean, within days, these agents were writing 2, 3 merchant accounts a week. Which for a lot of agents listening would be an amazing result. Right?
Absolutely.
and they're writing 2 or 3 merchant accounts a week. No, again, no idea really what they're like, very minimal training and all of that. And it just really reminded me that even with all the competition that's out there today in our industry, if you just go to work every day and work it like a job and say, like, well, I'm going to work right now, you're going to write merchant accounts. There are merchants out there today who don't like their current provider. So you can play that numbers game even without being a sales expert and still have a pretty consistent result. What do you think about that, Rich?
100% agree. And you never know. And that's why when you go out in the field, it doesn't matter what area you're working. The only area that matters is from the neck up here. That's the area that counts. But you
Okay.
can go out there. You've talked to one, like I went into a business yesterday. First business I went into, nicest guy in the world. And we'll get these merchants that are Mr. or Mrs. Anybody could write me up if they halfway know what they're doing. Soon as I walked in, the guy was like, "Yeah, I got this old machine right here. Do you have a new machine or anything like that?" And I'm like, I mean, needless to say, in about 15 minutes, I'm writing the guy up. So there's
Yeah.
plenty of opportunities, and that's what we have to understand. Someone in the field needs my help today. And
Mm.
all I have to do is just go out there and look for those merchants, understand that time is my capital. I have to invest it with the right people. I don't go out for big executive lunches. I got my little lunch box, and I still do this to this day. Got my little lunch box. I make every second count. I'm not stopping for big lunches. I understand that I have maybe a 5 hour window. Every second of those 5 hours have to count. If I'm not with the right merchant, I'm not in the convincing business. I'm going to move on from them and I'm going to go on and find the right merchant. And I promise you, even to this day, people say, well, the business is changing. You're not going to be able to have success anymore. I promise you that's not the case. You still can get out there to this day, go stop in on merchants, and you can have success.
I love it. Rich, for those who want to learn more about joining your team, I know you have this nationwide sales team, kind of a network of mentors and coaches and all of that. Maybe give us the 30-second version of what that looks like and then tell them how they can reach out to learn more.
Absolutely. We've since we started this series, I've had so many people reach out to me, which I love. As you know, my passion is to teach people the business, how to do this the right way, how to have success. Last week, we had 6 brand new producers that went through our training. They were only with us for a week to 8 days, 9 days, and they all have written their first merchants and more
Mm.
just through the training that we provide. So we're committed to having all the resources to make sure everybody has success. The olden days of here's your stuff, get out there and sell it, call me if you need any help, that doesn't work anymore. I mean, you got
Right.
to be a total rock star for that to work. I can do it. I know I can do that. But I mean, for people coming in, they need the training, they need the support. And that's where my passion lies. If you're one of those individuals that really want to have success in the industry, I'm here to help. Call me 904. You can reach me directly, 904 434 4635. Text me, leave me a message. I'm probably writing merchants when you're calling me, or you can email me at payrock Rich Norton, PAYROC Rich Norton at gmail.com.
Awesome. Rich, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Well, of course, the sponsor of our podcast is Nativia, and specifically, we have this Nativia professional card. And today, I've got Vlad with us, who has this knack in the industry of always come up with the most exciting events and interesting things. And so, I've heard through the grapevine, Vlad, that you really have something special for the card members that are spending on the card and getting these reward points. So, tell us what you got coming up.
Well, first of all, James, it's our job to wow our customers. We want to bring exclusive events, and we've started with the sports industry. And June is a great time to be a fan of sports in this country. There's a lot of great events happening. There's NBA, there's NHL, and everybody knows about our NHL promo, Stanley Cup Finals. But now we're bringing something really exclusive and really exciting. We only have one ticket. It's impossible to get, absolutely impossible to get. But you can be able to see the greatest soccer player of all time starting lineup for Argentina in Copa America in Atlanta in a Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We only have one ticket. There's only one lucky fan that can get that and enjoy that ticket alongside with us. I'll be there. Some of my people will be there. And of course, our professional card will be part of those seats. So these are professional card seat card holders. and Nativia business card holders, we're including both, one ticket, one event, one last time to see the great one play for Argentina.
And Vlad, how do they actually win this ticket if they're a card holder?
It will be a raffle.
Okay.
And definitely the more points you make, which means the more spend you do between now and the game, which happens to be June 20th. We're gonna announce at some point June 19th, June 18th, according to what I've been told. And one lucky winner will absolutely join us, and we will give them the treatment that professional and the TV card holders get.
I love it.
Royalty.
Good stuff. Love it. Vlad, thank you so much for taking time to share it with us today. I'm sure it'll be a great time for that lucky card holder, and I imagine you'll enjoy it a little bit yourself.
I'm a big fan. No question.
Thanks so much, Vlad. Have a great day.
Thank you.